This Restoration Today special series, Seller Stories, is sponsored by Restoration Brokers of America. RBA works together with restoration company owners of all sizes to establish an exit strategy for today or the future and explore the ins and outs of the selling process. RBA has helped many owners successfully and happily exit their business by bringing well-matched buyers to the table. In the Seller Stories series, hear real stories from real sellers and buyers in the restoration industry. If you are looking for help creating an exit strategy or selling your business, visit sellmyrestorationbusiness.com. Hey there, thanks for checking out another episode of the Restoration Today podcast. We are continuing our series on sellers' stories. I'm very excited today to be joined by Craig Moody, who is the very recently former owner of Mammoth Restoration in Flagstaff, Arizona. He sold his company literally within the last couple of months. This is a very fresh story. I'm excited for him to share his experience through that, as M&A is such a big thing happening in the industry today. So Craig, thank you so much for joining me. So what was the first time that you really started thinking about selling your business?
I think probably towards the end of 2020, November and December, did it really even creep into my mind that it might be a possibility, and that I've gotten to the point to be comfortable to sell it and move on.
Did you come into the business with the purpose of selling it at some point, or what was your purpose for starting your business in the first place?
Yeah, no, it's so funny you say that. I mean, I never really thought I had an entrepreneurial bone in my body. I worked for a printing company and I was a small business consultant for them. And I kept saying, after a couple of years, I got to get on the other end of the phone. Those guys are making much more money than I am. And so how I got into it. And then, once I got into it, I don't think I ever really thought that I would sell. I think I probably thought I'd retire, but just the point I'm at in my life, I think that there was a point saying, no, this is the time. This is the time. And what's most important for me and for my family, this is the time to sell.
Okay. So was the process invasive in the beginning? I've heard people say that, gosh, they really look at all the things. So how did that feel when people started coming in and really exploring your business and valuing it?
It was really, it wasn't too much. I mean, if you're big into your numbers and you understand your QuickBooks and your gross profit and your net, you kind of understood what they were going for and the multipliers. So, with the broker coming in and saying, here, I need all this information. Great. I wanted to keep it as quiet as possible. So I got my accountant is very professional, and she, agreed and helped me put the numbers together that they were asking for. And then, just getting an evaluation on it, and, just making sure and double checking, asking questions, saying, you do realize this is, where I live is, it's very sought after to come live here. And, it's more expensive to live here. So I just want to make sure that this is all apples to apples. So it really wasn't, to me, it wasn't, a big deal at all. I think to some people it definitely could be, but it's a lot of work and it's a lot of data that they wanted, but in the end I got exactly what I asked for. So
perfect. Okay. So aside from the financial piece, what other things did you do to help prepare your company to be ready to sell?
So I started couple things for sure. I started purging out old vehicles that we had sitting around that we were kind of waiting to trade in on the next buy, and getting the vehicles the fleet prepped. Did an complete inventory inside the warehouse, and just made sure that all of our equipment and all of our ducks were in a row there. Kind of purged out old desks and computers and things like that we didn't need any more tools. Started to work on the management team and making sure that that we were all rolling together on the same page, and we were building something that could last much longer than myself. Systems was a big one, starting to really just kind of be this is embarrassing. I need to work on this system. I don't want to sell this without, this system being updated that hadn't been updated for several years. And still a work in progress to tell you the truth. But so, and then, working on myself and working on making sure that everybody was, taken care of and place was prepped. And it was a journey.
What was your process for finding a broker?
I know a ton of people in restoration in the industry, and I got a lot of friends, and one of my friends actually sold, and I went through him and he hooked me up with his broker. It was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once the right seller came along, like, did you have multiple people that were interested? How did you know when the right person came along?
It's kind of funny. I had 7 or 8 interviews on the phone. I had one a couple from the East Coast that would say they were very interested and they were going to make an offer, and then they unfortunately had a very sad event that happened the next day, and they had to rescind that offer. They gave me a verbal, like, we're going to make an offer. And then a couple weeks later, the new owners made a phone call. They're not far from me. They were a day's drive, which really helped. They out of California, and they sounded great on the phone. I love their background. He was in construction. She was more in customer service and personal assistant type, with like a marketing type background. And they just, seemed like the fit for sure, that somebody that I felt good to go to sell with. And just moving along, they ended up coming, drove up, and we snuck in to the warehouse on a weekend. I was trying to keep it as quiet as possible from the management team, and from anybody. It's a small town.
Yeah. And
I didn't want it getting out there. And we showed them the warehouse, my wife and I, and we had a great dinner that night, just talked and just kind of really felt real comfortable with, what they were trying to achieve and get out. It wasn't just they were trying to buy a business to make a bunch of money, but they wanted to live somewhere like in the forest and have a ski resort nearby and hike and, do all that type of stuff. So, it was very important that they were going to fit into the community.
Sure. Okay. So what was closing day like when you got there?
Emotional, I would say. There was a lot of anxiety coming into it. We did, the broker had set up, the brokers are really good at this because they do this so many times, but they had set up kind of a little bit of a shock and awe campaign, to where I had rented a conference room at one of my friends who has a hotel, and had lunch there and prepared and everything. And I brought the management team in and told them, what my intentions were, and just kind of explained to them it was best for me and my family, and gave them a few minutes, and then brought in the new owners and the brokers, so for them to introduce. And you just see the, heightened anxiety starting to come down once the questions, you realize they were pretty good people. So that was interesting. And then, I actually broke down when I was leaving that room. I didn't expect to, but I did. It was pretty emotional. And I would liken it to when I dropped my daughter off at college down in Tucson at the University of Arizona, and was leaving, and just kind of the same thing. Like, I didn't expect to get that emotional, but people told me I wouldn't, and I did. So it was like leaving a child behind, it truly was, after 19, almost 19 years for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So what has your life been like since then? Did you have the kind of sale where you're transitioning immediately out, or was there some consulting in between? What does that look like?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely gave them 100 days, and we're still in it. We're actually meeting today for a big marketing handoff meeting. I prepared, one of the best things I did was prepare a transition plan for them, to where I thought, he's going to get more of the contracting end of it and this and that, and then she may take over the more of the marketing and the administrative side of it. And so we're, going through that transition plan, and then we're just kind of looking at, what's most important, and we're checking those boxes off every couple days and when we meet. So it's been interesting again. And I honestly thought I was going to be in there, 5 days a week, just nonstop. And it's not been that at all. It's been a few days a week for just a few hours a day, in all honesty, and a lot more emails and phone calls and text messages. But yeah, so it's given me time to work on my other business, and, the family, and working around the house. Like, the house kind of suffered, and the yard kind of suffered during this whole process. It was a process for sure. You need to be ready, depending on what bank the buyer uses, but it was nothing short of an IRS audit. I'll tell you that. There was a lot of paperwork involved.
So how has it felt letting go of your business? Did you have, everybody runs their business a little bit different. In some cases, the owner is like in the day-to-day making all the big decisions. In other cases, you might have a good management leadership team where they can kind of run the company without you. So like, which side did you fall on, and how has it felt letting go?
I have an amazing management team. Amazing. A lot of what they bought was the management team. I'll tell you that's in place as far as the three managers go. The way I ran my model was I only managed the managers. The managers then manage everybody else through the system. They manage the systems that manage the people. So, I was very lucky. I did have the marketing hat, which, during COVID, I dumped a lot into Google, into online advertising, and make sure the website was all up to date. Did just start getting back out to some face-to-face marketing, radio ads, and just, went all in on that. And I can tell you right now, the phone is still just nonstop ringing down there, and the marketing is going very, very well. So I was proud of that aspect, and I still have that. I'm still helping with the social media and things like that. And we're slowly transitioning that over right now.
Okay. So what is some advice that you would have other restorers looking to sell, or people maybe looking to buy, what to look for in a company, either way?
Yeah. I guess, basically a lot of it is human capital nowadays. I would say, you got to realize, what market you're going into, what's the average wage, not just the minimum wage, which minimum wage is important for sure, but, what's the average wage? What's the workforce look like? How healthy is the reputation of the company that you're going in to buy? What's the competition look like? The demographics? Is it growing? Is it not growing? This is definitely a small market that's growing. For the sellers, yeah, absolutely. I would just say that I think I had it running. It was running at the top of its game when I sold, and I'm just very, very proud of that. It was, firing on almost 8 cylinders. Definitely had a few hiccups, with key important people leaving before the sale was even announced. But just something that we could definitely, get through. So I would just say building that up to say, it was at the top of its game. It was producing more than it had ever produced before. It had the best team, operating, and the systems were being improved and refined, and the management team was coming together and gelling, and, at the top of their game. So I think that's what I was most proud of for selling.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I guess the only thing I would add is, this was the decision I made was just where I was at in life. It was one of those things where I just didn't see myself doing this for the next 10 years. And I have other things I want to go do. And by selling my business, I was buying myself time, time to go do that. And so I've got a lot more time to work on and go after my hopes and dreams at 55 years of age, and on into retirement, whatever that looks like.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations, Craig. And thank you very much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. For those who are listening, be sure to check out other episodes in this Sellers series sponsored by Restoration Brokers of America. Thank you for listening, Craig. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Michelle.
For more Restoration Today, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com, or find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts.